Oh, no.
It'll pass. Just get some sleep.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 heartwarming family moments on young Sheldon.
I'll be better, I promise.
I know you will. I love you too.
For this list, we'll be looking at the best time Sheldon or his family showed us all how sincere and wholesome they can really be. What's your favorite tender moment from young Sheldon? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Mitten off. If there's one thing we've learned about Sheldon over the years, it's that he's not a fan of physical contact. During the pilot episode of Young Sheldon, this phobia was reinforced by the appearance of his younger self wearing mittens at dinner.
Georgie, did you wash your hands before dinner or even this week?
None of your business.
Hence the mittens.
Things change, however, when Sheldon's father speaks to him about rocking the boat at school. George shares his story of being fired from a job for doing the right thing and tells Sheldon how he's still angry and sad about what happened.
Just do yourself a favor, okay? Go to school tomorrow and mind your own business. All right?
At dinner that evening, Sheldon takes off one of his mittens as the family prays and holds his dad's hand for the first time.
That was the first time I held my father's hand.
It's a lovely moment showing us Sheldon's true heart and warmth for his father. Number 9. Talking to an old friend. When audiences were first introduced to Meemaw in Young Sheldon, we got the gist of just how spunky a senior she really is.
All right, Missy!
Humiliate that boy!
Never without some snarky comeback line or an opinion to share, Connie is one of the most entertaining characters on the show. Still, as snappy as she can be, fans saw a whole other side of her when she went off to visit her late husband's grave.
If you hadn't died, I wouldn't be in this situation, so this is on you.
Discussing her dating life with his headstone, we watch her try to cover up her grief and ache for his companionship with little sarcastic jokes.
So now I have these 2 guys in my life, and I know that might sound like bragging, but at my age, if you were single and not hooked to an oxygen tank, you gotta swat them away.
It's one of the few times viewers ever get to see this side of Connie, and it's nice to know there's a lot more underneath those gray locks than killer wit. Number 8. A grammar lesson. Missy needs help with a grammar assignment, and with no one else around, she's stuck with asking Georgie.
You're asking me? I don't understand my own homework.
I know, but you're all I got.
Although neither of them are great academics, the two manage to make their way through the assignment.
Georgie, I don't think this is a sentence.
I think you're right.
Now I just have to fix it.
Put a verb in there, girl.
Now, that alone is certainly sweet, but the real moment comes later. A note slides under Georgie's door, and it's Missy's marked grammar assignment. She earned full marks, and he smiles proudly before pinning it to his corkboard. Of course, the sibling banter through the door just adds a tad of necessary levity and realism to an otherwise sweet moment.
Did you cry when you saw it?
No,
Why not?
because it ain't that big a deal.
Number 7. Rocket Man. In the earlier seasons, it was pretty easy for those who didn't know Sheldon to dismiss him as just another little kid. One prime example is how a NASA employee belittles him during his guest presentation in Sheldon's class.
If you want to save money, why don't you land the booster rockets instead of letting them drop in the ocean?
That's a cute idea, but it's not technically possible.
So, when the tables turn and Sheldon figures out how to solve an impossible problem, and NASA refuses to acknowledge it, George packs the family in a car and heads straight to Houston.
You and me are gonna give those space monkeys a little talking to.
Older Sheldon may have said a lot of terrible things about his dad, but between his insistence on taking them to NASA and the car ride home, we get to see how, flawed as he might be, this is a man who's willing to go the distance for his son.
Dad,
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Number 6. Absence and fondness. A big part of young Sheldon is watching the interdynamics between a young genius and his otherwise normal family.
Dad, can we afford a computer?
You do my taxes, what do you think?
Never mind.
With his twin sister lacking Sheldon's academic prowess, Missy would often argue about how Sheldon always seemed to get his way, and how annoying he was for it. But much like many other sibling pairs, their hearts surface in the worst of times. When Sheldon ends up in the hospital, Missy has trouble sleeping at night, especially with her twin's empty bed looming beside her. Watching her crawl into his bed feels like such a real thing to do, and the moment punctuates just how much she loves, cares for, and is worried about her brother. Number 5. Missy Apologizes. During season 6 of Young Sheldon, Missy crossed the line of adolescent mischief when she stole her dad's truck and tried to run away.
I'm gonna be in so much trouble. Only if you go back.
Caught by her parents, she lost her TV, music, and friendship privileges for the foreseeable future. During a car ride home with her father, things take a drastic turn as heavy rain accompanies a tornado warning.
Dad, I'm scared.
It's okay. We're almost home.
Fearing the twister will take the car, the two get out and huddle down in a ditch while the storm passes. When it does, Missy finally breaks down and apologizes for everything she's done.
Sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I've been awful. I don't even know why. I really do love you and Mom.
It's a touching moment between father and daughter, showcasing exactly what familial love and forgiveness should look like. Number 4. Mr. Spock and Captain Kirk. George may know very little about Star Trek, but he certainly knew enough to help Sheldon when he was scared of flying.
It's okay to be scared. That's when you gotta dig deep and be brave.
Spooked by the safety demonstration highlighting what could happen while in the air, Sheldon retreats to the lavatory and won't leave it. Using what limited Trek knowledge he has, George reminds Sheldon that Mr. Spock wasn't afraid to fly around in space.
I'm not Mr. Spock.
No, but I've seen you pretend to be him.
He suggests Sheldon pretend he's Spock, and George, taking on the role of the captain, gently orders him back to his seat. It might be a bit unconventional, but it's also incredibly clever and an effective way of calming down his son.
Okay, Mr. Spock. Your first order is to return to your seat.
Aye, Captain.
Not to mention, it treats Sheldon with compassion and grace, two things that are incredibly helpful to someone who's in a panic. Number 3. Mr. President. He might be the coach of a perpetually losing team, but George certainly seems to inspire people. When Sheldon runs for class president, he's terrified of the idea of having to get up on stage and give a speech to the school.
Just thinking about it causes my bladder to misbehave.
Yeah, I've been there.
You have?
Knowing how worried he is, Sheldon's father shares how he too was scared of talking to his players the first time.
Then one day it dawned on me. I'm not just talking to football players. I'm talking to teenage football players. Most of them aren't listening to a word I'm saying.
That's an interesting perspective.
That's touching on its own, but then George goes a step further and highlights how brave Sheldon has been, being so young among a group of teenage kids in high school.
Everyone's older than you, everyone's bigger than you, but you keep at it, day after day. That's brave.
It's just enough to give him the courage he needs to tear down his opponent. Number 2. Georgie skips a date for Mandy. With the arrival of their daughter, Constance, Georgie and Mandy's relationship has been a bit of a question mark.
And you don't have to get me anything. She's enough.
Glad you like her. I didn't save the receipt.
They aren't a couple, but the history there and the responsibility that comes with having a child together is unavoidable. Despite Mandy's insistence on Georgie continuing his dating life with Amber, the birth of their daughter shifts their relationship in a way Georgie never saw coming.
You're home early.
After breaking things off with Amber, he comes home to Mandy and insists he'd rather be with her and their daughter.
What happened?
Nothing. I just wanted to be here.
It's a beautiful, soft moment that shows how much Georgie has grown since the start of the show. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Best trip ever. With all of the heartfelt moments we've seen involving Sheldon's dad, we're convinced older Sheldon's view of his father was skewed by the later years.
I'll tell you a secret. Never understood how lightning works.
Didn't they teach you that in high school?
They probably did, but I got hit in the head a lot playing football.
Time and time again, George found ways to uplift young Sheldon when he needed it. Never was this more evident than when their visit to a shuttle launch was scuttled by bad weather. Knowing his son is disappointed, George uses science questions to distract Sheldon.
What causes the thunder?
It's a shock wave from particles heated to 10,000 degrees.
Interesting.
It all concludes with an even more heart-tugging moment as we hear older Sheldon express his love of that trip and how he never got to share that with his father before he passed away.
I never did get to see a launch in person, but that was the best trip I ever had.
It's all the proof we need to know how much he really loved his dad. Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.